Welcome to the 440. I'm your host, Eric Branner, musician, educator, and founder of Fonz. Today, I'm talking with Allie Tyler, marketing and business mentor, voice teacher, and choral director. Allie's the founder of the Voicepreneur Program, and she's now leaning back into her roots of songwriting, arranging, and leading a community choir in the mountains of Colorado. We dig into seasonality, self-love as a business strategy, creating scalable offers, and why anxiety doesn't belong in business. This is a soulful, practical, and inspiring conversation about building a creative life that actually works. Let's dive in. Allie, it's so good. I'm so pumped that you're here. Thank you for being here. How are you doing?
Oh my gosh, I am so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I knew from the moment that I invited you, we've had so many powerful conversations. I was like, this is just going to be a blast. And I don't have a lot of direction for it, but I have a ton of ideas that I want to talk about and things that I want to extract from you since we've gotten to know each other so well. So I wanted to start today to just let you take a moment and talk a little about what you're doing and what you're focused on and how your world is. So yeah, what's up in Allie Tylerville?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's funny you should ask because I'm kind of in the middle of this very cool transition. So I've had many lives where I'm a singer, I have my master's degree in opera, and I also have business and marketing where I've run the Voicepreneur. I also write music and I do all these different things. But the last 5 years, and we're going to talk about this, obviously, I've really been focused on the voicepreneur and helping other voice teachers specifically with their business and marketing. And that has been amazing because it's been the forefront of my business or my life, I should say. And then other elements would kind of sprinkle in. I'd sing some concerts and I would write some songs here and there, but it never was really the focus. And now, ever since maybe 2 weeks ago, I have completely shifted my focus. And so now I'm doing less voicepreneur and literally my days, I pinch myself. I'm looking, first of all, I'm in my own little tiny home that my husband built for me where I have these red rocks all around me in the most beautiful town in Colorado. And I'm just writing music. I'm recording backing tracks for my choir. I'm writing music for my choir. I'm writing music for my Instagram, for myself, for my album. And then I do the voicepreneur sometimes because I have set myself up with that model to be scalable and sustainable that I don't really have to do very much on that end. So it's a really funny question you're asking me because 2 weeks ago, I would have had a totally different answer. But as of right now, I'm really dedicated back to my roots, which is my craft, which is singing and writing music. So yeah.
Wow, that's a beautiful answer, and it's so indicative of who you are. Which is since I've known you, which has been a while now, you have always really embraced seasonality. Like when you
Yes.
started your family, it was just like, I'm doing this thing and it's going to be the coolest thing ever. And this is going to be amazing. And then you started this choir thing and I followed you through the Voicepreneur and your teaching. And I think this might be a really interesting spot just to kind of lean into and to start with is that you found your way back to this core thing that you love, right? And in knowing you for so long, and one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is for people who are maybe exploring what they're going to do, how they're going to do it. It's really, if you follow Allie on social media, there's this huge blast of energy, right? You're always portraying as so pumped, as so positive, so energetic, and also really courageous, right? So there's all these directions that I think are really important that make your makeup of who you are that I'm so excited to talk into. And we can pick any one of them because I love the seasonality that you're like, wait, I really want to do this music thing. So I'm just going to do that. And the voicepreneur is taking off. And I was an opera singer before and I do these gigs and you do gigs boldly too. Like you're out there and you're doing gigs. I see a lot of musicians fear the gig, right? They're doing this other thing and they get out of it. I guess I should say, how did you balance that when you talk about the voicepreneur going from what and talk a little about what the voicepreneur is a little bit more, and then how that transitioned into what you're doing now in such a brief moment.
I am so glad you used the word seasonality. Honestly, it's so funny. I'm like, if I could write a book, what would I write it on? And that's probably it. And it really, for me, I am a big picture thinker and I always have been. And I feel that a lot of musicians really can sharpen their mindset around this because it's not just about what's happening this week, this month, even this year. It's about what this moment is in relation to your life, in relation to 10 years, 5 years. And so, how I was quote unquote able to balance it is that I could fully surrender into that and not feel guilty for quote, not being a professional musician or not gigging or not singing enough, right? I came from LA and I was singing at the Hollywood Bowl and I've sung with Andrea Bocelli and M83 and I've had like insane gigs. My resume is pretty fucking dope. Sorry. I'm allowed to swear, but
Call it like it is.
Pretty, very dope. And the thing about it is that I had that experience. And then I thought, you know what? I don't want my craft to be the thing that is going to quote unquote keep me stable, give me financial stability. My craft needs to have financial stability underneath it as a root so that I can do the craft, right? And so I knew that building the Voicepreneur, something that is scalable and recurring, and I'll talk about it in just a second, but something that's scalable and recurring and can make that financial stability and that money stress a little less, that was the moment where I was like, this is what I'm focusing on right now, because this is going to be the thing that is going to allow me in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, to do what I'm doing now, right? Which is where I get to do every day something creative and awesome and be okay. So the Voicepreneur is a membership model essentially. And it started as one program and it was very specifically helping voice teachers. I used to help music teachers, but I niched down to voice teachers because they kind of are my people. Really, this stuff can apply to any music teacher, but it's basically, I've created a course on how to scale. And it was like how to create, let's say a warm-up library or courses, add-ons, master classes, you name it, right? We're in this world. We're seeing this all the time. And this was a few years back. So I created this program. It was called the Voicepreneur Program. Then I renamed it to the Scaling Studio System. And I started including other courses within the Voicepreneur Program membership model. So people were paying a fairly premium price per month. And you would join for either 6 months or 12 months. And so you have a membership, you have a community. And for me, it was voice teachers. And we're all working through these courses and programs that I'm helping people with. So selling, for example, I love selling. I literally love selling. And I feel like I can really help people sell in a very fun and authentic and sustainable way. Or maybe something along the lines of the one I just put out recently was how to physically transition, right, out of one-on-ones into a more scalable model. Because that's always the weird part. What do I do if I have all these students? And how do I actually build courses if I have no time, right? So I made a whole program on that. Or I have one about how to give your website a makeover. Or I have one about your Instagram content. So there's all these different various, components and courses and programs that I have within the Voicepreneur program. And I show up to 2 calls per month. They're 1 hour each. And that's my workload. That is literally it. I mean, I put in obviously all the work into building those courses, but they're all done. And so now at this point, it's just building the community of people and more people join. And then you get that scalable model where you're making more without having to work more. And now I like to kind of use the seesaw as a little demonstration. So if you're imagining a seesaw and on one side you have private students and on the other side you have more passive, scalable income that's not necessarily, your time that you're dedicating to making that money, you get to be in control of how much weight you put on each side of your seesaw. And that's always been my goal from day one. It's like, I don't even care how much money I make, although I love making money. It's about how I make the money. It's about what my schedule looks like, right? That's always been the goal. To answer your question is like my big picture thinking, with the balancing of the seesaw, being able to be in control of how many private students I have so that I can later, after I put my work in, have more time for gigs and my craft and all of that. And that's really the biggest piece of advice, right? It's like being in control of that, if that makes sense.
And, that's a really great way to say it. And would you say that on that journey, did you have this vision of wanting to get back to more of a not purely, but more time to invest in your creative process? Was that part of your vision? Or
100%.
were you always in the moment being like, this is the thing I'm doing right now? No,
Nope.
you looked ahead at somewhere you wanted to be.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. I always knew where I was headed and I always knew that this was what I needed to do to get there. And then the courses and the programs and the offers, that would be the fun part. Like, ooh, what can I make next? What can I make next? But I always knew this is a finite thing. And I am going to make this transition back where I go back into my craft and my singing and my songwriting, which is where I'm at right now.
Would you say that? I mean, we all have this makeup, and I think there's something you see in a lot of voice teachers who seem really, is it a confidence or a willingness to try things? I don't know what it is, but it seems like in the voice teacher community, there's a lot of energy in that way of being maybe more so than a lot of other instruments, right? Where they
Mm.
seem more, hate to word this, entrepreneurial, or they knock these things out. They join communities. Is that a confidence thing, or is it something that comes up? I don't know if you noticed that too before you had niched down into just the voicepreneur and you were doing
Mm.
musicians, but I don't feel this energy that you're sharing as much in the other communities that I work with all the time, from guitar teachers and piano teachers, and it's out there, but it's not as pervasive, I would say, as this kind of like, oh, let's do this thing. Let's make this journey. Let's have this vision of where we want to be as artists. So, because I hear what you're saying, and I'm trying to get, and I've already learned a lot, but you had a vision for what you wanted to do. You've had a really great ride in doing it. And is it just a courageousness that you had, a willingness to suck, which I think is really important to go out there and just blow it and try
Yes.
new things? Or was it just you had a really clear vision from day one and you're like, I'm going to get to this thing so I can do this thing?
Oh my gosh, Eric, this is so juicy. What a great thing to talk about because you are so right. So I don't know. This is my theory. Okay. Yes, there is a confidence thing, but first of all, I'm gonna toot my horn for a hot second. There've been like almost 200 people who have gone through the Voicepreneur program. I can almost guarantee the people that you are seeing who are very confident in voice teachers, they've probably been through the Voicepreneur program,
Sure.
which is so awesome. But I think what it really is an invitation for other music teachers. So music teachers who are listening to this who are not singers. You know, singer versus instrument, and I'm an instrumentalist, so I get it. I play piano and clarinet. And the thing about it is that I think there's some limiting beliefs that musicians and instrumentalists have, particularly around how, quote, cool they are, how many students they can get, how much money they can make every month. I see a lot of conversations online that is so rooted in fear. And there's so much scarcity let's take the example of no one wants to learn how to play the oboe. Okay. Like I used to work with an oboe teacher and that was her belief. It was just like, well, no one's gonna I play the oboe. Like I can't make that cool. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Of
Oh,
course you can
so
make that
cool.
cool. Of course you can make it cool. But there's this limiting belief. Like that's literally what it is. It is a belief that is so subconscious that is rooted in fear in some way or another, right? And oftentimes, especially if we're talking about online marketing, the fear is being seen. The fear is not being enough, not having enough, not getting students, making enough money, not, whatever it is, not being seen and not being enough. Those are huge, huge things that are an undertone for people right now. And so that's the first thing that I would say is like, let's let go of any limiting beliefs you have around your instrument and your instrument being in a hindrance because it's not. There's so many conversations I have with music teachers where they're like, well, everyone wants to sing. Singing is so cool. And I'm like, well, yes, but also that is our responsibility. And this is something I teach all the time. It is your responsibility to make it cool. It is your responsibility to make it vibey. It is your responsibility to go out there and post about how freaking cool your instrument is, no matter if it's singing or the oboe, right? And there's so many innovative and creative ways to do that. So when you talk about courageousness, for me, the courage is, I love, business is a spiritual experience. Hands down, it is a spiritual game. And so when you can get behind that and you're like, oh, it's literally a game of me against myself, okay, I'm gonna play the game. That's how I treat it.
Mm.
And so you're like, okay, I'm gonna be innovative because that if you have innovation and a little dose of courage of like, you know what, I'm going to put myself out there. And yes, I might not get enough students, or I might not get enough likes, or I might not be seen in the right way or whatever, but I'm going to do it anyway because I love my instrument and I love what I do. And I think it's really fucking cool what I'm doing here. And you have that conviction and you make it ever so slightly innovative. You are golden. You don't have to have so many likes and so many comments and so many, students coming rolling in. When you start going into that and you look at the data of that type of stuff, you're going to get lost in all of that. And then you're going to go back into your little hole of, oh my gosh, my instrument sucks. Nobody likes me. And you go back into that place, right? So the game is, yes, that's going to happen. That's business. I'm going to put a course out there and no one's going to buy it. Of course. I'm going to put an Instagram post out that I think is freaking dope and nobody likes it. That happens. But the game is, okay, what am I going to do differently now? Okay, that's cool. Neutrality. How can I move on? How can I make it more innovative? How can I teach my audience how freaking cool this is? Right? And you stay in the game of that. You stay in your conviction. You stay in the energy of how many times do we teach a lesson and we end a day being like, that was amazing. Oh my God. Whatever just happened in the room just now, I am like fired up, right? We want to take that energy and capture it and just stick it online over and over and over and over again. And that's really it, right? Yes, it's courageous, but like that's the game.
It's embracing it as a game. I haven't, I've, of course, I've read the book, The Infinite Game and all that stuff, but I haven't really looked at it as looking at business as a game. I mean, there's so much about life that can be playful and a game itself, but did you always have that kind of perspective? Did you have that in your music career too?
Yes,
Where it was fun
always.
and playful?
Always. I think that's why I needed to leave because I felt like my energy wasn't, and again, we're in early 20s here, so it's a little
Yeah.
different, but I always felt like this isn't playful enough. Like, why is it just audition after audition? It just didn't fit for me. I needed to take a little break, you know?
Mm.
That was my personal choice. But yeah, I've always viewed it like that.
It sounds like there's a real, because I'm really hoping that young people in music school are listening to this, or people that are looking to make a shift. And it seems like there's a self-awareness too that affects the seasonality of making a shift. For me, I always call it asking the universe, where I'm like, I think I need to do something different. I'm like, I start paying attention, people show up, mentors show up, opportunities show up, and you glom onto them. And it's like, to me, it's like surfing, like this
Yes.
life, this experience of these series of present moments, and different things surface, different intentions come up, different seasons show themselves or present themselves, and it's on you to experience them or to lean into them and to be aware. It sounds like self-awareness has been a big part of your journey since a really young age. And I wanted to bring that up because everybody I'm talking to, there's a few themes as we're having all these conversations with people, and they're all totally different. And I love this, that there's not really that much in common with what you're sharing, with what so many other people are sharing, except that, the idea of success. But what does pop up is seasonality. What else pops up is most people have three things they're doing, right? There's like the core thing they're doing, and then there's two other things that they're doing. And I'm talking about people that are really experiencing a lot of joy in the journey, right? They usually have variety that they can lean into. And the third thing is they kind of figured out what they were good at, right? They figured out the thing and for you, I've always seen you as someone who, having known you for a long time, your online energy is so infectious that it kind of makes you want to hang out with you. So if I were a voice singer or a voice teacher starting a studio, I'd be like, oh, I want to hang out with Allie. I'll do that thing. And you lean into that. And maybe you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I'm like pretty chill. Like, that's not really my thing. Maybe I'm going to try to be like Allie and I'm going to be super energetic. But that's not who you are. But there are people who will really connect with who you are. And I think really what you're saying is you're trying to scrape away at who you actually are as a person, what energizes you, being willing to let go of something in a second if it doesn't work, knowing when to push through a little bit and learn a little bit harder. And that's what the game is, right? Is that kind of what I'm getting at?
100%. That is so good. I feel like this buzzword of authenticity gets brought up a lot. But really, what authenticity is, it's exactly what you're talking about. It is the self awareness and the unconditional love for yourself to be able to be your whole self in front of other people. And the self awareness thing, let's talk about that because that is so good and so true. To me, it's like, it's your intuition, baby. You got to have a relationship with your inner voice. You got to have a relationship with your intuition. And I like to think about this as what I call it in my programs is your next level energy. And your next level energy, it's kind of like what we were talking about, right? That energy of finishing a great day of teaching, or after a really awesome performance where you leave and you're like, that was awesome. I am awesome, right? Your moments where you're like, I'm fucking awesome. That's your next level
You're
energy.
collecting these moments.
You're collecting these moments and you are trusting that energy, that frequency, that higher self, that higher part of you, that inner voice, that soul part of you is enough to ride through the game, to ride through all the income dips and all of the fears and all of the weirdness that is being a musician that's also trying to run a business, right? It's that unconditional love and that knowing of yourself. And that's what I always come back to. It's like I can feel in my body what it puts me out of that energy and what brings me back in. So let's take an example of a parent who emails you a really annoying, awkward, or nasty email.
I hate
right?
those. Yes, and they
right?
happen. Mm-hmm.
And they happen. And it still happens to me too. I mean, it happened to me a couple of weeks ago. It wasn't a parent, it was somebody else, but we all have these moments. And what happens in that moment? You feel it in your body. You literally in your body, you feel your stomach churn. You go into a total mental tailspin about, first of all, it's like blame and anger towards that person. And then you move into blame and anger towards yourself. And you're like, oh my God, I'm a terrible teacher. Blah, 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 blah. I should change everything. What am I doing? What am I even doing with my life? And you go into this whole thing, right? Let me tell you, that is a beautiful example, a beautiful contrast to what is not your next level energy, right? I look at those moments and go, oh, wow, okay, I feel the anxiety in my body. I feel that this is not the right thing. And that's the thing too, is like being aware of that, right? Like, can we actually even just take a moment to recognize that this is not it? That anxiety does not belong in business, period. And I will forever stand on that. That we should never make decisions from an anxious place. And that's a whole other podcast episode, honestly. But can we like look at that and be like, whew, okay, that doesn't feel good. Or, ooh, that person just like crossed my boundary. That doesn't feel good. Or, ooh, that student like keeps canceling over and over. That doesn't feel good. Or, whatever these things, that doesn't feel good moments, that is so perfect. That's your intuition being like, listen to me. I'm here. Like, yes, exactly. Right. And then you go, ooh, wait, what does make me feel good? When do I have that higher self moment? Those are like the opposites almost, like you get that contrast. And for me, it's like, I'm only going to make decisions and I'm only going to work in the mode of my higher self. And so that self-awareness of being able to know a weird boundary with that parent or whatever it is.
Like, can you go back just 1 second? Say that transition. You just froze for just a second. It was really good.
Yeah. Oh no, it says my internet connection's unstable. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect. Yeah, you're fine.
Okay,
I'll tell you. I'll
great.
throw my hands up if there's a problem. But yeah, keep going.
Great. Yeah. I was just saying those moments when you're setting a boundary with a student or you're sending a response to that parent who is mean to you and it's a very loving response and you're still setting a direct boundary, or you're letting a student go, or you raise your prices, or heck, you go through an income dip, right? All of these things, these little moments, these are all moments of growth, right? And these
Earth
are all Earth school. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And part of that is being like, I trust that me making this decision, whatever that hard decision is the right one because this is in alignment with my higher self. And I am aware of what that feels like in my body.
And I really, I like how you take that moment and you become the observer of your emotion? Because
Yes.
it's really difficult to, and maybe a good question, is there a practice or have you practiced where I feel like I've worked really hard to just be able to understand what I'm feeling because emotions are physical, right? And to put a name on it and to try to, it's one of the like things I've been working on forever as far as in performance and in speaking and just connecting with humans and with myself. Is there a place of power? You get that email that's like, you let the student out 4 minutes early and now I want a refund or whatever those ridiculous emails.
Right.
And they do get you. You're like, oh gosh, I feel terrible. Why are they so mad at me?
Yeah.
And what am I doing with my life? Is
Yeah.
there a way to to encounter those moments from a place of power? Because I always assume that they're part of the ride and I manage them by observing them and accepting them and knowing that's part of the deal. But do you think that there's a way to build into your business structure and how you approach business? I love how you're like, there's no room for anxiety in business. But when it does arise, do you feel like there's a developmental phase of getting to the point where that doesn't get you down? Or
Yes.
that's a
Yes.
practice?
Yes. Oh, it is a practice. And that's the thing. This is not to say that we are not anxious and can't ever feel anxious. Oh my gosh. Absolutely. But it's a matter of recognizing that. And then for me, it's like, I always need 24 hours to just feel and to not put pressure on myself to like solve any problems or to respond. Do not respond when you're feeling anxious, right? We're just trying to, what it is we don't want to do things when we're in that state. We just want to feel that state and allow ourselves to feel that state and recognize that state. For me, my biggest practice is going on a walk. And I live in a beautiful place where I can go hiking all the time. And so anytime I get that email or that moment, if I have even just 10 minutes, it's like I need to go for a walk and I'm not even going to do anything except just feel. Okay? That's it. I'm going to be mad, right? Whatever. Great. I'm going to be anxious, frustrated, whatever it is. And just let yourself feel it. And it might take a few days and that's okay. But we got to let ourselves feel it and not react. And then if you have that love and that unconditional love for yourself, where for me it's I really do love crying and I do love feeling things, and I can witness myself going through that and loving myself through it. Once I've gotten to that more neutral place, then I can start making decisions, right? Then I can start with responding to that parent back, or then I can do whatever decision needs to be made in that point. The thing too that I also wanted to share, oh, I have a little thing in my throat. Hang on one sec.
While you do that, I'll just speak back to what you just said, which is I think
Mm-hmm.
that you're sharing your fundamental frequency for how you operate your business, which is really cool. And I mean, I never knew this, but it's actually really powerful. And this isn't something you learn in business school, but it should be, and I think it will be, because all the other things, the things that will create success in the future is humanity, right? That's
Yes.
everything else is like kind of being figured out, but it's that human thing and actually doing the work. I interviewed David Cutler a couple weeks ago, and he said this really brilliant thing he's got in his new book. I don't know if you remember David Cutler. He wrote that book called The Savvy. Great dude.
Yes.
And one of his big things, he's like, he really talks a lot about there's two types of people. There's the people that do and the people that don't do. One of the things to do is to work on yourself and realize that it's not just about raise your rates, open a studio, go to music school, do that, study with the right teacher. It's actually about having a human experience. And that's the core of what the business is, because your business probably isn't going to look like Allie's. It probably shouldn't, or you're not really being creative, which I think would be a great kind of next segue, which is we're not having this conversation to say, okay, you should do this thing, and then you could do this exact same thing for your oboes. Now that you've gotten rid of that limited mindset, we're saying you should lean into yourself as a creative source yourself and figure out yourself until you become that and do what you have to do to be able to get to that. The
Yes.
season that you're just entering right now is actually more of a symbolic season, right? If you think about what you're doing of your journey, then it is actually the fact that, oh, now I'm doing more music and doing this thing. That's really more of a symbol of the journey from what
Yeah.
I'm hearing you saying that would apply to anybody who's listening to this. And
Absolutely.
what it's really fun. All my tech friends have been listening to this podcast and I get more tech message or more messages from them, and they're like, this is amazing business advice. Why didn't I learn this in business school or what in building my last and so I love what you're saying, and I
Yes.
wanted to just reflect back on my take of what I heard you saying, because I feel like it's so valuable, and hopefully it's really it's inspiring me, but I'm sure it's inspirational to everybody else too. So
Yeah. It's funny you talk about this too. Something else that's coming up that I think is really important for people that ties it all together here with the seasonality and big picture thinking, authenticity, loving yourself unconditionally. The wisdom that we're all seeking comes from having a human experience. I mean, because when you look at, okay, if you want to compare to me, which please don't, don't compare things to me because I used to be that person comparing myself, right? I've been doing this online thing for almost 10 years. So the wisdom that I have now didn't even remotely exist 5 years ago, 3 years ago, right? And it's because I feel, and I deeply believe this with all of my heart, and I feel like this is a really good practice and mindset trick for those moments that get you out of your zone, that get you out, that parent or whatever it is, that experience. Every single one of those moments is the universe giving you an opportunity to be a wiser version of yourself, to be a more authentic version of yourself, to be a more innovative version of yourself, to be more creative, to be more you, right? And so for me, I get that email, I allow myself to, go through the emotion of it, and then I go, ooh, where's the opportunity here? Where's the opportunity here? Because every single thing is an opportunity. Maybe the opportunity is just, you know what, Allie? You need to sharpen up your boundaries in this one department. And this parent came over here and showed you that blind spot. Wow, thank you. I didn't even realize I didn't have that boundary there. Oh my gosh, great opportunity, right? You lose a student. Suddenly you have a gap in your schedule. Instead of freaking out, oh my God, I'm not going to make money. Opportunity. Where's the opportunity? Ooh, I could find a really aligned student, one that's going to be with me for years and years and years to come. Thank you so much, student, for giving me that space in my calendar so that I could have a more aligned student come in. Right. So it's like, that's the game. What's the opportunity? And how can I be grateful for that?
that's what I was going to say. It sounds like you're practicing having gratitude for whatever comes your way, whether
Whatever.
it's instead of being good and bad, it is what it is. How can I be grateful for this and use it to my advantage as a learning opportunity? And that's okay. So there's gonna be days. What do you do on a day when you wake up and you're like, this is so stupid. I'm so stupid. I am you gotta have those days from time to time. Like, what is wrong with me, Allie Tyler? Like, how do you, because I think that something I experience a lot, especially with younger musicians who are trying to go out and go after it, and people who are trying to make a shift in their career. I think those are two groups of people who could just get so much from hearing this message. When you're in a funk, a down cycle, because these are natural too. And I
Yeah.
experience them, and it's down cycles of creativity and caring about business or being like, this book I'm writing stupid. What am I doing?
Yes.
So when you wake up on those days, I'm assuming you have them. What's your strategy for that? Because those, for a lot of people I see, I'm asking these questions because I have these conversations all the time, like every
Yes.
day.
Yeah.
And one of the things you see people highly creative. They're fed up. They get stuck in a cycle. The mindset, that's the simple thing to say, oh, it's a mindset issue, but there's a spiral down where they need to break that. And they're like, oh, grateful for what? So, what do you do in those moments?
Great question, because this is so real and it never goes away. It's always going to be a thing, right? Always. There's no destination here. So the first thing I do is I check daily little habits. I check number one, am I consuming too much? Am I scrolling too much on Instagram? Such an important one because that immediately is going to get you out. Like if you are doom scrolling, that is a sign that you are on that way, on your way to that kind of lower energy, right? So that's what I check. It's like, what am I doing in the morning? Where am I spending my time? Where am I spending time that I'm not even aware that I'm spending my time there, right? And I just kind of get a little bit observant. Okay, this app, you guys, this is the best freaking app ever for Instagram control because I have an issue with this where I just open it and I don't even know I opened it. I
Yeah.
know that I'm not the only one that suffers
Yeah,
from
of
this.
course.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. And it's driven me crazy because I can't delete Instagram with my businesses, but I'm
Mm-mm.
like, how do I do this? So this app has changed my life. It's called One Sec. It's free. And it literally just every time you click on Instagram or whatever apps you want, it just has you take a moment to be like, all right, and now let's take a breath. And it
One
like,
sec.
yeah, and you literally just breathe within it. And then it goes a second detail and it says, why are you getting on here? And it has you actually put in why you're opening the app.
I'm here to work. Oh, wow.
So good. And ever since then, I have been so much more mindful, right? So that's not, yes, mindset, but it's really mindful. What are you doing? Right?
Are you
What are
being
we
present? Or are you
doing?
just phoning in that moment of just being like, this is what I do?
Exactly. So
Wow,
that's
that's a
like
great
step
answer.
one. Step one is like get more mindful of your life, look at the things you're doing in your day to life, and look at the things that you're not doing, right? Also, for me, it's like, oh, I'm not exercising. Oh, I'm not drinking enough water. Like just those little, are you feeding yourself? Are you drinking water? Are you exercising? Are you sleeping? Just the normal things that focus on that. Because the bigger picture thing here, and going back to intuition, your intuition is telling you, hey, it's okay to take a break. Your ego right now is freaking out that you need to be productive. Okay, we live in America, so Americans especially have huge, like, we are programmed to be capitalistic in nature. We have to hustle and do things in order to feel valuable. And so that's that. Oh, yeah, wait, literally, my body is telling me I'm not grateful. I'm not enjoying my life. I'm in a funk. Okay, I'm just going to accept that. I'm not going to try to do anything right now. I'm going to focus on my health and what I'm doing in my little moments. I'm just going to take a break. Literally, just take the break. Like, cancel the students. Just whatever you got to do. And for me, it's like I need more nourishment. I love that word. Okay, I need to nourish myself. If I'm feeling low energy, it's just like a battery. I need to charge myself up. I need to give myself some love, right? Get off of social media, go and exercise, eat some good food. Don't try to get any work done. Don't worry about the students. Don't worry about anything and just let yourself go through that. Winter, I don't know how winters are in Seattle, but winter in Colorado, we get real winters, right? And it's approaching, and I'm like, oh God, here we go. This is the time where we have to actually rest. But that's literally the point. That's the season. Why do we fight against this? Right? It's like what the opportunity here is, what if you don't have to fight against yourself?
I hear you big time. And I feel like I really hope that people hear this because there's so many times you meet with people and they're like, what do I do? Do I move to this thing? Should I offer group classes? And you're like, you really need to take care of yourself because the vibe I'm getting is like, I don't really want to like hang out. I can't imagine sitting next to you on a piano bench right now. Like, or it feels like, and you just said so many things and they all culminated in this one thing where the real, as you're a giving human being, is to say, hey, I had to cancel lessons today. You're modeling to the people that you work with. And this is my whole trip as a teacher is for me, it's guitar and it's music, but it's also life and it's how to be present and how to focus on your breath and your breathing, do these things and to get to a point when you said this earlier, when you leave that lesson, you're like, oh my God, that was magic. It is to acknowledge that, but also know that it is those moments that when you leave that, the person who you worked with, they can't stop talking about it. Right. And I feel like all of my success as a teacher has come from there's stories and lore over the last 15 years of the students I've worked with and the families I've worked with. And they're little things where a magic moment happened and they just will not shut up about it to everybody who will listen. It's at the dinner table, it's at dinner parties. And I lived for those moments because they were a reminder of how important my work was and that there's this magic in here. And I think you mentioned it earlier and you mentioned it again now. You can't create those moments if you're not in that space where you're what you call it your next level energy,
Yeah.
right? And that's really just being present and being fully in the moment and being really focused on what you're doing with intention. that sets the stage for those moments to happen. And like everything we're talking about, this to me is like what business 101 should be in the future. Like if I were teaching in a business course, this is what I'd want to talk about. I
Yes.
I have a really interesting story that's kind of taking over my mind right now. Is in my life, for some reason, since I've been an adult, almost all of my closest friends have either been professional athletes. My first roommate in Seattle was a Seattle Seahawk. Randomly
Wow.
met him at before, and this guy, I lived with him when I first moved here, he basically almost broke my ankle, and I've had for over 20 years, I've had this ankle injury. And when people notice it, it's really bad. And I've seen PTs, I've been to doctors, and I've learned to live with it. But it's like when I surf, it's really messed up. My surfing practice, it's like I'm really bummed about it. And I've always been bummed, but I've learned to be like, oh, this is just my experience now. But another one of my former students, who is now a professional athlete, he plays soccer for the Seattle Sounders, and he came over a couple weeks ago, and he came over to talk about it. It was such a great moment. He had this fantastic moment where he had been playing in the Leagues Cup against the greatest soccer player of all time, Messi, right? And he scored a goal that closed that game out. And
Wow.
this was a triumph. And he came over that week with a copy of a book called The Inner Game of Tennis to give to my son, who's a basketball player. My wife's an actor. I'm a guitar player. Both my kids are jocks. Everybody knows the story. It's hilarious. And to talk to him about mindset. And what he talked about was not the goal that won the game in front of 70,000 people. He talked about the goal he missed in the middle of the game. And it just made my arm hair stand up because I was like, this is just like music and art and life. And this is one of those people who just does and is totally creative and intentional. And he talked about when he shanked this ball in the middle of the game, totally missed. He had his moment, wide open shot, how he trained his mind to be ready for that moment. And he talked about as soon as I missed the shot, it was like, that's my shot for this game. And I just missed it. And it was wide open. He just focused on the sound of the cleats hitting the ball. And it was so beautiful, this mindfulness moment that he shared. But then he's like, we went for a walk, and he's like, Branner, are you limping? And I was like, I am. I've had this thing for like forever. And he's like, you got to see my guy. And I was like, no, man, I'm telling you, I've been to a lot of guys. This is messed up. And he's like, I already told him about Hux, my son. So he's like, go see him Wednesday. Call him. So I call his guy, and like this has happened last week. And so last week I go to see this guy, and he's a Zen master physical trainer that works with personal trainer that works with professional athletes. He's the coolest dude ever. He takes one look at my ankle and just laughs. And he's like, this is not a bad injury at all. Check this out. And he starts doing stuff to me. And like an hour later, I was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding? He's like, yeah, we'll have this thing taken care of in no time. See you next week. And I was like, I woke up the next morning, I stood up and I just started crying. And I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't felt this way in like 20 years. What the heck? And of course, here I am on my podcast. Every person who will listen to me, I'm like, Mom, you're not going to believe this guy. I met this guy. And the thing that it's like, I think about that story talking to you because you're like that person, and you're giving that energy to other people of being really good at something, being really intentional about it. Like, no, you have to know what you're doing, but then being really present and modeling that, giving that to people. So really, this is your marketing plan. This is like, we're done with marketing. We're done with, I really want to talk about sales when you mentioned that, but that's basically your sales too, right?
Yeah.
Is the whole thing. So you've encapsulated your entire business strategy at a level far above what you're actually executing on the day to day in this conversation. So I really
Love
appreciate it.
that. I love that. And I love that story. Thank you for sharing.
I'm so
Oh my
pumped.
God, that is amazing. I can't believe that for you.
I'm
That's
like,
so
get me to
awesome.
the water. I'm going surfing. I can't. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yes. Yeah. I mean, that, yeah. And I think that's, if I could just like give anyone advice, it's just like, just love yourself. Just love yourself. It's okay. It's hard, right? Play the game, see the opportunity, and love yourself no matter what, because it's all good. If you're making cool things, great. If you're taking a break, great. If you're going through a funk, great. If a parent reached out to you, great. Like, it's okay. It's okay. Every opportunity is honestly, to me, it's like that's the opportunity is how much deeper can I love myself? How much more
Mm.
can I love myself? How much more can I even love myself?
Yeah. And if you've been listening to this and over the course of time, you're like, okay, Allie, well, like whatever. And you're thinking in your mind, your situation. Like the answer you just gave, Allie, is just that is step one is where's the opportunity? How can
Yeah.
you love yourself? And that might be hard to hear because what a lot of people want is an answer. They want a solution. And that's not always what's going to be. You have to put yourself in the place to find that. I think that's what you're saying. So let me just,
Hmm.
because I want to make sure, I want to talk about the your choral project and what you're doing now too, and what you're doing next. But before we do, you said if you were giving advice to anybody, would that be the same advice if you were speaking to someone that say was just getting ready to graduate music school and they're getting ready to go out in the world and they realize they're going to start paying their bills? Because I feel like that's a profoundly powerful time to build a business, right? Because that energy is like there and you're still really close to the love of the instrument. And I think you can really materialize from that. But if you were, would you give the same advice to someone who was, say, 21 coming out of school and someone who was 35 and just fed up and thinking about going to get a day job?
Yes. Oh my God, 100%. Because what I'm actually saying is you got to know the difference between your ego and yourself, right? And if you're 21 years old and you have defined success as extrinsic things, right? Things that your ego wants. Oh, I got the lead role in this opera, or I got, what, like whatever those things are at that age, which there's a bazillion things. And the music industry makes it very easy to get lost into shiny object syndrome. Like, ooh, that sounds like a cool thing I want. Ooh, that sounds like a cool thing I want. You might, okay, let's say you do the audition and you don't get the role. Can you love yourself anyway? Can you do the
Mm,
next thing? Right? Because if we're constantly chasing, and the same if you're 35, if you're constantly chasing, oh, I want this, I want that. And that's the same reason why music teachers will just, oh, I'll just like make a group class. Oh, well, now I'll just make a course. Oh, well, I'll just make this new offer. It's like that is actually coming from an intrinsic motivation. It's not, it's an ego, maybe fear based type of thing where it's like, that sounds cool. Ooh, I'm able to do that. Ooh, I want more money. Let's do that. Ooh, I should do that. Ooh, someone else is doing that. I should do that too. It's all this like that kind of energy, that scattered energy. And then those things don't work out. And then you go, oh my God, I'm a horrible person. I'm a horrible musician. I shouldn't, blah, blah, blah. You're not loving yourself unconditionally, right? So it's go do those things, but can you actually love yourself through them? Can you go to those auditions and not get the role over and over and over again and be like, I know I'm awesome and I know I can do this and I believe in myself and I love myself and I trust myself and I trust this is all part of the journey and I trust that there's opportunities here for more growth. And if you keep doing that, that's the goal, right? That's what we're talking about here. So that
that's
way
the
you don't,
playbook.
that's the
That
playbook.
that's the actual playbook, which is, no one talks about that. But that's the playbook. It's not a solution. It's got to be like you said, an energy level higher that you're aspiring to and
Yes.
creating from, because that's where creativity comes from. And
Yes.
I think I see so much recycled ideas, so much, like you said, limiting beliefs. And it's really hard to see because every human walking around has that creative spirit in them. If this sounds, let's just say, Allie, this sounds insane. Like, honestly, I'm pretty type A. I just like to get stuff done. Like, and yeah, I'm never going to like myself to begin with. And yeah, I'm just grinding this thing out. And if this sounds like a really, if the things we're talking about sound of just mindfulness and being present and loving yourself, if that just sounds like such a reach, what's the first step? Like, if you don't have that naturally, because I think people need to, whether you have it naturally or not, you need to cultivate it
Yeah.
as if nothing more than a business practice. If you don't come to that naturally, what's the first thing you do?
Mm,
What do you do with
the,
your curmudgeons? They're like,
yes. You need to find evidence of those really awesome moments to remind yourself of what you're doing and write it down. I have it on my notes app, right? When I was doing a lot of this stuff years ago of like manifesting, and I just started writing down the things I would start getting. Like, ooh, I really want that shirt for 45 bucks. Whoa, it came up 45 bucks. Write it down. That was awesome. It could be anything. Whoa, I got that I literally lost a student and a day later I got a new one, a better one. I'm gonna write that down. That's evidence. It's
don't let the
evidence.
evidence pass you by. Oh, it's
Don't let
such
the
a good
evidence pass
answer.
you
Like,
by. Yes. Yes,
How do you feel
exactly.
about mentorship? Or, I mean, it almost sounds like therapy for a lot of people would be almost the first step. It like,
Yeah.
for, I mean, we all need it, but honestly, it sounds like in order to create from a place being wide open, like this is just fact. The people who
Mm,
do that, it's not actually a mystery. Because I know that people probably, I can imagine people look at your online presence that don't know you and like, well, of course, she's like this really like happy and has this energy and
hmm.
she's it's like, no, you work at it and it's part of
Yes.
your model. It's part of who you are as a person. I was so lucky that my mom is that by nature at her core. My grandmother was that at her nature, at her core. So I saw it my whole life and it was just a way of being. And I know a lot of people, it's really hard for them to imagine that because that's not their experience, but it is something to work towards. It's a practice, it's a craft, and it's fun, right?
Yes.
So it's like that's what makes people want to sit next to you on the bench and practice or join your choir. Allie, tell me about this project because I always like to get into the threes. I know you're teaching, you've got the voicepreneur. What's up with this community choir? I wanted to make sure we touched on that before we go.
Oh my God, I am obsessed. So, first of all, it's hysterical that I call myself a choral director because that was never in the cards for me. I'm like, what? This fell into my lap. Talk about manifesting. I was going through my own funk here in Lyons. I live in Lyons, Colorado, this really small town. It's like less than 2,000 people in the whole town. And I was like a big musician in a tiny town going, what am I doing here? I'm depressed. I'm not doing my thing. This woman comes up to me who I know. She sits next to me at pizza a couple years ago. She's such a sweetheart and she's a little songstress as well. And she goes, Allie, I'm thinking about starting a choir. I don't know anything about choir. I've never been in a choir, but I have a lot of people. Do you know anyone who knows anything about choir? And I was like, and I've sung in choir professionally for over 20 years. And it was that moment of like, hallelujah, like the clouds parted. And I was like, this is literally the divine moment right here. And I knew it. And then she left. And so I inherited this choir that this lovely woman kind of seeded. So I don't take ownership for actually starting it. I just kind of got it. And it's insane. So we charge per class and people pay to be in the choir. It is all adults, amateurs, no audition. They're mostly people who are like, I sang in high school choir. And it's like, we got age 32 to 72. It's a giant range. There's 30 of us. And I love it because since it's my group and I can kind of do what I want, I really love teaching music theory and I love teaching the language of music. I love teaching sight reading, ear training, all of that type of stuff. So I combine those elements in the rehearsals with singing very conscious, uplifting, soulful music, half of it, which I usually write. And our mission with the group now, it's been in effect. Now we've reached the 2 year mark. We're entering our third year. So it feels super exciting. We've really got just so many people involved. Now we're really interested in just like our concert this winter is the theme is on peace. And I'm going to do a whole meditation and a prayer and song and really just aligning with the world events right now, right? We're living in a crazy time and what a beautiful gift that we have singing and have this group. So I'm kind of playing around with the group with my own creativity with writing the music, arranging it, the lesson plans, but also how to connect it into my community and how to get it more of a community centered and mission focused group. So it's been the best joy of my life.
That in itself sounds like a massive, massive undertaking to
Yeah,
fall into your lap.
it
And,
was.
and to your whole point of your whole day of everything that you've shared, it's you're doing less to do more, right? That
Yes.
feels like the thing. You're doing this thing with just full of intention and energy and joy and gratitude, and then you're not. And then you're doing something else. And it really is a great way to herald in this new season you're talking about. So I
Yes.
I I love that you have that. I love following you on social about that. And everybody, we'll share all of your links. But what's the best way for people to learn about Allie Tyler? And
Ooh.
is it your Instagram? Is that like kind of the best? Is that your most favorite surface
Yeah.
right now?
I would say Instagram, I have two handles. So I have my business and coaching, that's the Voicepreneur. And
Hmm.
then I have my singing, songwriting, activism, choir stuff, and that's on The Whole Voice.
Got it. Got it. So the voicepreneur and the whole voice. We'll put those links in the program notes. Well, Allie, I am so grateful that you came today. I can't wait to listen back to this and go for a walk and vibe on it myself. I'm really grateful that you were here and thank you for your time. And I hope I can have you back on again because there's so many things that I wish we could have talked more about. So
I
let's do this again soon.
know. Thank you so much, Eric, and great questions. This was so much fun. I really appreciate being here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Allie. You've been listening to the 440 podcast. If you found this helpful, subscribe at Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave a quick rating. It makes a big difference. To learn more about how to run your teaching studio with less stress and more joy, visit fonz.com. I'm Eric Branner. Thanks for being here.